Have you ever looked at your credit card bill at the end of the month and just thought, wait, why did I buy all of this? I think we've all been there. It feels like a simple, universal feeling. But what if I told you there's a whole science behind it? Today, we're going to dig into some fascinating research to unpack why we buy things, especially the things we don't technically need. You know what I'm talking about. That late-night online purchase, the gadget you just had to have. It feels like a little moment of weakness, doesn't it? But it's actually not random at all. There is a whole psychological and social process happening in your brain between the moment you think, I want that, and the moment you click Confirm Purchase. And we're going to explore exactly what that is. So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at how researchers even study our shopping habits in the first place. Then, we're going to crack open the mysterious black box of the consumer mind. After that, we'll dive into the psychological triggers and the social pressures that guide our hands. And finally, we'll connect all those dots to get a clear answer to our big question. All right, let's get right into it. And look, this isn't just about casual observation. There are billions, and I mean billions, of dollars spent trying to understand the why behind every single thing we buy, from the second a desire pops into our heads to long after we've tossed out the box. The official term for this field of study is consumer buying behavior. And what I think is so cool about this definition is that it's not just about the moment you swipe your card. The research looks at the entire journey, the little spark of desire, the search, the decision, how you feel using the product, and even what you do with it when you're done. It's the whole life cycle. Okay, so how on earth do you even begin to map out a journey that complex? Well, researchers love to use models, and a really central idea in a lot of them is something they call the consumer's black box. The black box is basically a metaphor for your mind. It's this mysterious place where all the inputs, like a TV ad, a recommendation from a friend, or just a feeling you have, they all go in and get processed. It's that space between seeing a product and actually deciding to buy it. And for marketers, figuring out what's happening inside that box is the absolute holy grail. Now, I know this looks super complicated, like something out of a textbook, but don't worry. It's actually telling a really simple story in just 3 parts. On the left, you have the inputs. That's all the external stuff, like ads and what your friends think. That information then flows into the process. That's your brain, the black box, where it gets all mixed up with your personality and your motivations. And then, finally, what comes out on the other side is the output, your decision. Buy or don't buy. Simple as that. Let's simplify that even more. Think of it just like a recipe. The inputs are your ingredients, a dash of marketing from a company, a sprinkle of influence from your family. The process is the cooking part. Your brain is the oven, mixing all those ingredients together with your own unique motivations and personality. And the output? Well, that's the final dish. You either buy the thing or you don't. So, now we're going to zoom in on the most fascinating part of that recipe, the process. What is actually going on inside our minds when we're standing in an aisle or scrolling through a website? This is where psychology really hands us the keys to the kingdom. Okay, so a whole bunch of things are pulling the strings, right? Everything from how much money you make to how old you are. But when it comes to buying stuff we don't strictly need, the research is super clear. The most powerful forces are the internal and the social ones. Just look at those last 2 columns on the right. That is where the real magic and the marketing happens. Think of these as all the little gears turning inside your head. Motivation is the spark, the why. Perception is the filter you see the world through. Your personality helps decide if a brand just feels like you. And your overall attitude, well, that's kind of the final gatekeeper that gives the green light before you spend your money. Now, to really understand motivation, we have to talk about Maslow's famous pyramid. You've probably seen this before. It shows that we humans have these layers of needs. We all start at the bottom with the basics, right? Food, water, shelter. But here's the thing. Once we have those covered, we don't just stop wanting things. We're driven by these incredibly powerful, higher-level needs, like belonging, respect, and becoming the best version of ourselves. And that is the key to understanding all these so-called unnecessary purchases. And this is just a brilliant way of showing how those abstract needs translate into real-world shopping. A grocery subscription totally meets a basic physiological need. But what about a designer bag? Come on, that's not really about carrying your stuff. It's about fulfilling that need for esteem, for status, for respect. An online course isn't just a bunch of videos, it's a step you take towards self-actualization. These unnecessary items are actually doing a very important job, satisfying our very real, very powerful, higher-level needs.
But of course, our decisions don't happen in a vacuum, right? That little black box in our minds is constantly getting signals from the world around us. So now let's pull back and look at the huge social forces that shape what ends up in our shopping carts.
We are social creatures through and through, and you better believe our purchases reflect that. Your culture basically tells you what's cool and what's not. Your social circle fine-tunes your taste. And maybe most powerfully, the people you look up to, what researchers call your reference groups, are constantly and often silently shaping what you want to buy next. The research actually breaks these groups down into two key types that influence us. First, you've got your contractual group. Think of them as your inner circle, your family, your close friends. Their influence is super direct, like, hey, you should buy this. But then you have your inspirational group. These are the celebrities, the athletes, the influencers you admire from a distance. You might buy a certain pair of sneakers not because your friend recommended them, but because your favorite musician wears them. One is direct, the other is aspirational, but wow, are they both powerful. Okay, deep breath. We've looked at the models, we've gone inside the psychology of the mind, and we've seen the social pressures. Now it is time to put it all together and give a straight answer to the question we started this whole explainer with. First, it's super important to realize that not all buying decisions are created equal. This chart shows us there are basically 4 types of shopping, and it depends on 2 simple questions. How much do you care about this purchase, and how different are the brands? So when you buy salt, you don't care that much, and all the brands are pretty similar, that's habitual buying. But when you're buying a new laptop, or maybe a really nice coat, a high-involvement purchase where the brand says something about you, that's complex buying. And it's in that box where our psychological and social needs totally take the driver's seat. And this quote from the research, from me, just brings it all home. A purchase is often a message. We buy things not just for what they do, but for what they say about us. They are signals. Signals of our identity, our dreams, and where we feel we belong in the world. So here it is. Here's the answer. The reason you buy things you don't need for basic survival is because you absolutely do need them to satisfy other very real parts of yourself. That new gadget might be fulfilling a deep need for novelty or learning. That expensive shirt could be about fulfilling a need for belonging or for self-esteem. These purchases aren't frivolous. They're actually attempts to climb that Maslow's pyramid and to build and broadcast our identity in a very social world. So, now that you know the science behind it all, it kind of puts your shopping cart in a whole new light, doesn't it? The next time you find yourself about to click that buy button, maybe just pause for a second and ask yourself, which need am I really trying to satisfy here? The answer might honestly surprise you.